I'm looking for a mind in work. I'm looking for a mind in work. If you can't tell, I've been listening to Hamilton. I just never found an opportunity to actually listen to it until recently. Don't crucify me, but the Schuyler Sisters and Wait For It are like the best songs. So just 2 days ago, I was at the Women's March, and it was an amazing experience, and it was such an honor to be an ally to the movement for women's rights and all of that. And so I would just like to I guess, recount my experience. I think it'll be a good way of telling people what a protest/march is like for those who haven't gone before, or people who are, weren't able to go to this one but might want to go to ones in the future and all of that. And, obviously, please take everything I say with a grain of salt. I've only been to 2 marches in my life. I've been to the weekend after the election, and then I went to the Women's March. I went to the Women's March in LA, by the way, not the one in DC. I do not have the money to fly to DC. I think the first thing that I want to say, though, is that from what I've read and from what I've been talking about with people who are just more experienced with activism, they always stress that like you should not feel bad for not being able to go or not having time to go, or you have a gig that day. And in a similar vein, it's important for people who went to the march to keep going and to find other ways to harness that energy and that anger, because just because you went to a march does not mean that you're like doing as much as you can to help the cause and everything. Nobody should ever be shamed or feel bad about not going to one of them, because there can always be dangers, there can always be mental stress, there can always be just time constraints, there can also be issues of money that you have no control over. So the march is supposed to start at 10, and I'm supposed to meet up with my group at 9. I meet with 2 other people that I'm supposed to meet up with, and we say that, okay, we'll meet at this station that's super close to the march. It'll be super easy, let's do it. The night before, I went with my friend to make some signs. I think I get her up around like 8:30, I think, and no, I get up around 8:10 actually. So I get ready, I choose like a comfortable outfit, I pack up all this stuff, like I've done research on like what I should pack. I packed a water bottle, I packed a battery pack, I made sure that I had the ACLU app on my phone. I'm not sponsored by them. I brought a towel just in case. Pepper spray. I didn't think anything bad was going to happen anyways, though, because it's such a huge march and there's a lot of white people at this march. I get ready to call my Lyft. And that was my first mistake. It just happens so infrequently that I forget that Lyft raises the prices without any upper limit, really, depending on how big the demand is. And because, LA is such a diverse and liberal city, everybody was trying to use Lyft to get there. And so I ended up having to pay $50 for to get to the Women's March. I hated that Lyft was putting me in that position where like I have to pay that much money to like even show up for a movement like that. And I also was thinking about, oh, well, maybe I could take the train or the subway there, but I was hearing from people that were taking it to not take it because like it was so crowded that it's also really hard to get through for that way. So and I just spent a really long time trying to decide like which transportation even to take, because all the options seemed bad. I'm happy to spend that much money on the movement, but like people shouldn't have to. Like I kind of feel like it sucks because it's keeping certain people that can't afford that level of a ride like to the march, to any kind of march. So I get there, and something that I also didn't really think of, like a large portion of like the area that we were marching in would be blocked off because they're trying to make room for people to march on the streets. And so cars weren't allowed in the immediate area. And so I checked my Google map, and it literally was going to take me 30 minutes to walk to where the march was going to happen. It was just going to make it even harder to find my group. And, I was by myself at that point. That was a dumb decision myself. I managed to meet with another friend who I was not planning on meeting up with just by luck. And she was nice enough to like come look for me because I was honestly having an anxiety attack because it just felt so claustrophobic. I felt alone. I hear all the time that it's so important to go with a group, and I didn't have one. Thank you so much, Natalie, for coming to get me, because I probably would have freaked out and I probably wouldn't have known what to do. I probably wouldn't have been able to like walk. The area of the protest is not a good idea, because if it's like anywhere like half of the size of the Women's March, then it's going to be impossible for you to find the meeting spot, because it's very likely that the meeting spot might just have like a huge crowd of people already, and it might be impossible for you to even get through that crowd of people. That's what happened with me. I was trying to get to a point where I was supposed to meet like this one group I was supposed to meet with. There was just like literally a sea of people, and I could not like even like squeeze through them. But once the march started, it was all good. I felt great about it. Again, it was an honor to be there. I hope it doesn't sound like I'm complaining about the march from a privileged standpoint. I still have a lot to learn as someone who is trying to fight for human rights and civil rights in this country. So I hope that you will be able to take my experience and learn from it. Protesting is a very difficult thing to get into, and there's a pretty high learning curve to it. The more that we share our knowledge the easier it's going to be on everybody, because I definitely have a feeling that in these next 4 years, like, we can already see people being more and more activated and more people going to protests. There were so many people that were going to the protest for the first time at the Women's March, which is so great. I hope that I'll have the time and the energy to continue to going to them, but also, like, if I don't, that's fine, because there's plenty of other ways, again, that I can help the movement. I honestly wish I could have spent that $50 I spent on that fucking Lyft to go, like, you know, donate to Planned Parenthood. I did hear from a friend, though, that like certain Lyft drivers, they turned off their app and just like started giving people rides, which was super cool. I just wish I got that person. I did not. I had to pay my driver $50 to go less than 10 miles. And because the person that I met up with, they came by car, it was a little bit of a walk to get back to their car, but it just saved me a lot of trouble. I didn't have to pay for transportation to go back. They dropped me off back at my place. It was great. Minus all of the tips about packing stuff and, you know, making sure that you're protected and that you know your rights at a protest, and you know what the police are legally not allowed and are allowed to do to you. Just logistically, meet up with friends before you go to the location. So that way you can either take the subway together, you can walk there together, you can take a Lyft together, somewhere farther from where everything is supposed to happen. Try to go as early as you can, because the earlier that you go, I think like the easier it'll be to just use basic public transportation or Lyft or Uber to get to where you need to go before the prices go up. Form a group and meet up with them early, because everything will just be easier that way, because you'll be able to split the cost and you'll be with your group once you get there, so that way you don't have to look for anybody in a sea of people. There are just so many benefits of just meeting up with your group farther away and then finding a way to get there together. That's the main piece of advice that I have, I guess. I thought I had more, but it culminates just into, you know, going with your group and meeting with them ahead of time. That's it. I really hope that this was helpful for people who are interested in going to protest or march. Like I said before, we're probably gonna be doing more of these in the next 4 years unless something happens. I really do think that it's making a difference, because a lot of people who are opposing the march, they're asking a lot of really dumb questions and they're making themselves look not like the smartest people, really. The fact that there are so many like not intelligent and petty responses that are coming from the Trump administration, I think that means that it's working. Asking for women's rights is not a lot to ask. Like, it's not. Like, basic human decency is not, like, on the political left or the right. Like, it's just basic human decency. That's all we're asking for, and it's ridiculous that we have to ask for that in this day and age. If you are interested in going to a march or a protest, definitely do your research before you go, because, you know, all protests are different, the risks are different, the cost of going there is always different, the amount of people that are going is always different. So all of those things need to factor into your decision about whether or not you want to go to it. There are definitely protests and marches that are a lot more dangerous than the Women's March. But as usual, feel free to check me if I said anything that was out of line, if I said something that was offensive or watering down or diluting the value of the movement. Please let me know. I'm always open to learning. I just wanted to recount my experience, because there are a lot of things that had to learn and were very hard for me to learn in the span of like 3 hours of that march. I wish that someone had told me. Cool, thank you so much for listening. I really love and appreciate you, no matter who or what you believe in. Please like and subscribe if you feel so inclined. It really helps me out. Cool, I'll see you next time. Bye!